Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Debating for America's Youth. Today, I'm interviewing an awesome guest. Today, I'm interviewing Jack Neel, who is the 2018 Prose NSDA National Champion and the 2019 Tournament of Champions National Champion in Oral Interpretation, and the TOC Perfect Performer Overall Sweepstakes Champion. Welcome, Jack.
How's it going, Nathan? I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got this worked out. For those who don't know, we've been having some technological issues, but we're finally here. So my first question is, how did you first get started in speech and debate, and what made you want to stick with doing the activity?
So I've been in speech and debate for about 7 years now. In sixth grade, my mother started the team at my sister's high school while I was a sixth grader, and went to like some of their competitions. There were about 4 or 5 members on the team, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I wish there was like, I wish they had this in middle school. And then I looked it up. It turns out they did. And I begged my mom to like take me to a tournament. I learned a couple of speech pieces, like just to like kind of make her feel bad. She's like, oh, he learned all these pieces. He might as well just go compete. And did pretty well in my first tournament. And just since then, I guess the rest is history. Just kept at it. Got some team members in 7th grade, stuck with them all throughout high school. I don't know. It's been a learning experience because we really started from the bottom. And it's just been a long journey.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And so obviously, when you're competing at these huge tournaments you've been to, obviously I already said your accomplishments. You're in a room full of like awesome competitors and a pool full of like people who've worked really hard and are really successful. How do you stand out to the judge in that pool full of really qualified, successful competitors?
So speech is very like a subjective activity, of course. So the thing that I try to do personally, this kind of is thrown out of the ballpark with COVID-19 going on in online tournaments, but I always would try to like connect with a judge like on a very personal level when I was giving a performance. So like in rounds that had like 3, 5, sometimes like 10 judges, that gets a little harder for me. So let's like usually it would be like connecting with the judges, but like in those rounds with multiple judges, your emotions and like your passion for your speech just have to be on point.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you're practicing for these larger tournaments, like, do you have any practices that you would recommend other people use to kind of like get better at their performance?
This is kind of gonna be a common theme for me, is just like watching other people's performances and kind of like taking bits and pieces of like little techniques that you pick up on. But as far as practice goes, there was a girl, her name was Kimberly Lee. She was the national champion in DI a couple years ago, and I asked her about it. I was like, hey, do you like practice like the really emotional parts of your piece? And she was like, no. I only practice those one time at the beginning of the year to just like learn them. But after that, like you wait till it's in the round so it's more authentic, because like you want to know your script like the back of your hand. So like when you're doing a performance, you're not regurgitating it, you're more so like living in the moment for it, like the words like come from the character rather than you. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we also interviewed Kimberly Lee. So if you want to check out that interview, it's going to be somewhere on the screen right now. So yeah, that makes sense though, because you want your piece to be like you want to remember in the round, but you also don't want it to come off as a very scripted thing. You want to kind of have that authenticity. That kind of leads me to my next question. So you talked about how a lot of your personability is lost on the online setting, and I would agree on all aspects of that. I really enjoy connecting with the judge, or at least connecting with the other people in the room. How do you deal with like losing that personability or that in-person component, and how do you deal with that on an online setting for those who are going to compete in online tournaments in the future?
So the first thing I did was I thought to myself, okay, this is on video. If I were it like, who would be the type of person to like convey emotions on video and like make you cry? And it'd be like, I wouldn't really think YouTube. I would just think like more so like film. Like I was trying to think of films that I'd seen where like I'd become emotional. And you think some of the reason is you have 2 hours to tell a story. So like by the end of it, yes, you do get emotional, but like you can definitely watch a clip on YouTube that's like 2 minutes long and get emotional from that. So like you kind of like got to study like, what about that makes it emotional? Is it what they're saying? Is it their facial expressions? But the biggest thing I picked up on in my NSDA preparation was just like how toned down a performance is over the screen as opposed to like in speech and debate, normal speech and debate, or like theatrical performances like on a stage in theater like Broadway. Those are very large and expressive.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I know we talked about this in our previous interview, but like
Mm-hmm.
competitors like Kevin and Kyle Ahern, who were able to kind of use the virtual setting to kind of embrace it and kind of like their medium, for those who didn't watch it, they were kind of like on like a Zoom call or on like a Skype
Mm-hmm.
call. So they were kind of really embracing the format. And I think that things like that can really play into how to make a piece like really stand out if you're really embracing the difference of like the setting, I guess. And one thing I might add to
Exactly.
that is it's not even just on the virtual setting. You can apply this anywhere. I'll tell you, when I've been competing, we've been competing in like when you're in a debate round, you're obviously in a bunch of different settings. Some of them are like history classrooms, science classrooms, and people in Congress, at least, who make their introductions kind of match with like the setting, do
Mm-hmm.
really well because like, just like this poster taught us, and stuff like that. So really adapting to where you are can be very, very strong. And I think it can help you stand out to a judge.
That's super true. Like, and that kind of goes back to like dominating in those tough rounds or like dominating in that final round. It's all like so much of it is who worked the room the best. If a room is laid out in a certain way where there's rows, like walk up those rows if you have a reason to do it. Like Kevin and Kyle, like that's like the biggest thing I've learned from watching both of them. They're like they key in on audience interaction and they just like realize the importance of it. And like I've applied some of those same techniques and motifs to my performances where like I've done things like giving people high fives or like touching someone's hand in the audience. But it's all about working that room to where it feels natural and like people don't feel like you're doing this for a gimmick, like you're doing it for like for a purpose, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any advice you would tell a novice who's just getting started in speech and debate, maybe in prose or oral interpretation, or just maybe just speech in general?
Definitely. Hmm. So some things like where I have a novice on my team, I'm always like, okay, let me show you this video. But like when you show them a video of a speech, you kind of want to show them like a more so basic one rather than like something really complex that they're not going to get because you want them to like keep their interest. So just find someone that's been on the team for a while and be like, hey, can you show me like a basic, really good speech example that kind of like identifies what this is, like what the heck we're doing. And definitely something I'll always tell people when they join the team is like stick it out till your first tournament. Like you're never gonna know what it could have been until you go to that first tournament and you really experience it. Like after that first tournament, people either they quit or they're like, "Wow, I love this. I'm gonna go for it now." It's never like, I'll see the second tournament," you know.
I completely agree. One thing I might add to the whole first tournament thing is when I went to my first tournament, I literally didn't say a word because I was in the room full of the most amazing people and the smartest people I've ever seen. I will say, don't get intimidated because one thing that's actually crazy looking back on is the people who I was in the room with, like in awe of my freshman year at my first tournament. I realized that those people won like the local like tournaments. And then by the end of my junior year, I was winning those local tournaments. And like
Hmm.
I was the kid that like I guess I looked up to. I was at that same level. And so
Exactly.
it might look like a daunting task to be that good, but if you put in the work and you put in the time, you can become that good and you can get to that level.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You like don't let like the past notions of who's done well like determine how well you do. Like speech isn't really based on precedent. Like most of the judges, they don't know. Oh, that kid won nationals like last year. They have no idea half the time.
Another question is, so when you're on that national stage, at the different national tournaments you've been to, how do you deal with the nerves that you're up there? But even at like more local tournaments, like how do you battle those speaking nerves that you experience?
Um, so something that I really keen in on is just having this aura of confidence almost that you see in so like I'll go to the videos when I watch a video of a great speaker, like one of the most notorious speakers is Abigail Ali, won multiple national championships in college, or like a man named Austin Dean Ashford, one of my favorite performers. I just kind of like like when they walk up on the stage, they like have this look in their eyes. It's like, wow, I'm gonna destroy everyone in here. And it's not like a cocky thing or like an overconfident thing. It's like I believe in myself and like I believe in the message that I'm gonna tell. And that's another thing about it is I don't think when you get to this elite level in speech and debate, you don't care about the trophy anymore. The trophy comes after your message comes, because like these people, they just want to speak to as many people as possible. And then once they get to that final stage, it's like, wow, I feel successful. Let's just tell the story we've been telling the whole time. But another thing for me on a much simpler level is I heard that taking a yawn before you go on stage like lets out your nerves, and I don't know what that is, but once I heard about that, like it really helped me with some problems. Like I always used to be like really shaky before I go on stage. Like I started just a big yawn, and like it fixed so much.
Wait, that's real? Are you being serious?
No. I swear. Like once I heard about it, I was like, oh, I have to do that now, and then it became like kind of like a routine, like a big yawn, like will help you.
It sounds like a bunch of speech people made that up just to trick novices into into yawning before their performances.
Have you heard that before?
I have not actually. I will
Oh.
say what I like to do before performance is I'll take like when I'm sitting down like waiting to go up next, I'll take deep breaths because for me
Hmm.
when I get really nervous, a thing that I do is I speak really fast, like too fast, and the judges can't
For sure.
understand or I can't really put the personability on my speech. So I take deep breaths and then I kind of slow down my heart rate, and then when I get up there, I'm in a calm place so I can get going. And another thing I do is I have for Congress, it's different than other events, but I have my introduction 100% memorized, like almost always. So when I get up there, I can begin with something familiar. So when I start giving my
Hmm.
actual speech, it's not like I'm, trying to figure it out. I'm ready and I start going. And I will add that I was talking to Taylor Hedrick, the national champion in
Yeah.
humorous interpretation. And one thing that she was talking about was like the nerves she experienced, she had those nerves, but as soon as she got up on that stage and she turned around and then began her piece that she's been giving all tournament and
Right.
all year, she just started going with it. So I think that like being confident and knowing what you're saying can be very helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing
And
I will say, funny story though. I was on the stage performing one time, and there was like a big projector screen that showed my face, and I looked over and I saw myself on the screen, and I about freaked out in that moment. But like as soon as I looked back, like you said, it was just like, oh, you have to forget about it. Just like keep going. You've done this all year. Think about the message of it.
I will add one thing that I was thinking about, like while watching these performances on YouTube. Obviously, I think one of the best performances I like to watch, and I've watched so many times, is Evan Eiglar's performance of
Hmm.
Tammy, the
Tammy.
dinosaur kid. So great. But one thing that I was always thinking was, you're on that final stage and you're performing. Is it not nerve wracking to see all the trophies behind you? I know you talked about spreading your message, but like seeing all of that and realizing, holy cow, this is where I am. Does that like throw you off or anything like that?
Um. Hmm. I guess when you walk up there, it's a little strange, but my pieces, I guess I just don't turn around as much as other people did. Like Evan, like I feel like some people even play with the trophies, like as a joke, like they make jokes about the trophies. So just like kind of like humanizing the situation and realizing it's not that big of a deal. Like you're just here to speak. Like at the end of the day, this is just a bunch of people that love to debate, that love to perform, that love entertainment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and okay, so you've obviously done speech for what you said 7 years, and you've obviously had a lot of experiences. Do you have a message you would like to convey to the speech and debate community and everyone who's watching this video right now?
So after NSDA this year, I made an Instagram post basically stating like, um, the one message I want to leave like with high school and middle school speech and debate is the fact that, um, while financial barriers and like socioeconomic barriers and just like where you are in the country, like may start you off at like a lower rung on the ladder, for speech and debate success, like it's definitely possible to be successful. Maybe not like top tier success, but like there are just like so many free resources out there and then like people willing to help. Um, that like you can definitely get somewhere if you reach out. It's just like you kind of have to take the initiative on that. But like that doesn't mean that NSDA can't do anything to like make it easier on kids who are in those situations. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Like there was a big petition going around to make all the NSDA videos on the website public. And of course, like people have issues with that because of like copying or like copyright issues. But definitely the NSDA should like look into making those videos accessible for kids because they're just such great learning resources. And I know so many schools have speech and debate classes where they can like show those videos because like the NSDA package to become a member is like $300. And like I get why they do it. They have to like profit like to like fund their tournament and things like that. But definitely the video resources, to me, that shouldn't be like something you have to buy. Like I don't think you should ever be able to buy success in speech and debate.
Yeah, and I'll say that the lack of free resources in the community is one of the reasons why I started this nonprofit and have this YouTube channel, is because people who want to share their message or share experiences that they've had in the speech and debate community, they can come on and kind of like put it out for free. You know, accessibility to these national champions that honestly seem, you know, inaccessible. And I think that like people like you honestly coming on and like being able to like share your message and share your advice to other people is priceless for those who are from smaller schools or newer schools like I was, or for people who maybe don't have the financial ability to afford big packages like you talked about or go to huge camps. I completely agree. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that as a speech and debate community, we should work in whatever way it is toward making resources more accessible and towards, you know, helping those who maybe don't have the same financial situation.
And with that, just like if any kids listening to this right now, that like needs resources, that just like there's something called 3P Speech, and they have like YouTube series like how to cut a piece, how to do pops, how to do blocking. Like there's a bunch of informational stuff out there. It's just like, can you dig deep enough to find it on the internet? Like, will you put the time in to find that?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to thank you for watching, and yeah, everyone definitely check out Jack Neel's piece.